All right, let's talk about The Matrix. We've all seen it, right? We think we get it. Humanity is trapped, there's a digital prison, and we've got to break free. But what if I told you that whole understanding is completely backward? Today, we're digging into a text called The Divine Architecture of the Matrix System. And let me tell you, it flips the entire script. It's one of the most powerful and honestly challenging interpretations I've ever come across. It's going to change how you see the movie, and maybe a lot more. So let's get into it. So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll touch on what everyone thinks the movie is about. Then we'll get into the idea that the system itself isn't good or evil. From there, we'll look at life inside versus outside, and then explore this wild idea that the movie itself is a kind of filter. And finally, we'll see how the source says this whole system gets perfected. Okay, first things first, let's just set the stage with the version of The Matrix we all know and love. We all remember this, right? Morpheus lays it out for us, plain and simple. The Matrix is the bad guy. It's this big, oppressive system, a prison for our minds, and the whole point is to escape. That's the story we were told. That's our starting point. Now, here's the interesting thing. The source material we're looking at today, it actually agrees with this part. It says, yes, our modern society, with all its rules, its jobs, its money, is absolutely an artificial reality. It's a man-made structure built right on top of our most basic primal needs. So far, we're on the same page. And it doesn't stop there. The text says that famous human battery metaphor, it's totally spot on. Our society literally runs on us. We power the whole thing by just participating. And when we can't contribute anymore, when we get old or weak, we're just unplugged, replaced. The system just keeps on humming. But here is where we take a hard turn away from everything we thought we knew. This is where we start to see the divine architecture. Because the source says we've made one huge mistake, thinking this system is evil. Think about it like this. A system isn't moral or immoral. It just is. It has an input and it has an output. It's no more evil than your own body digesting food. It's a biological function, a mechanism. Sticking labels like good or bad on it means you're not seeing it for what it truly is. And if you look at our lives, they're filled with these simple amoral functions, right? Input, output, eating and, well, you get it, planting and harvesting, work and reward. We don't think of these things in some grand cosmic battle of good versus evil. They're just necessary processes. The source argues our whole society works just like that. Now, this example is designed to be provocative, but it gets to the very heart of the idea. You see a mother feeding her child, this beautiful, loving act, but the text asks you to see past the emotion and look at the raw mechanics. You're seeing one unit in the system preparing another unit to take its place. It's not cynical, it's just functional. It's just a necessary part of keeping the whole thing running. So, if we accept that the system isn't evil, the next logical question is it good for us? And this is where the argument really comes into focus, with a direct comparison between life inside the Matrix and life in the quote-unquote real world. I mean, just look at this. Outside the system, what do you have? Constant fear. A brutal, grinding fight for survival against starvation and the elements, a monotonous, animal-like existence. But inside the system, you have art, science, food, safety, comfort, love, entertainment, everything that makes life worth living. So you have to ask yourself, which one of these is really the prison? And this is the big reveal. The source says our whole perception has been flipped upside down. The movie tells you the Matrix is a prison, and the desolate wasteland outside is freedom. But if you actually look at the conditions, the Matrix is the new kingdom. It's a paradise built for humanity. And that real world, that's the outer darkness. So this begs a really big question, right? If the Matrix is this great kingdom, why on earth would its architects ever allow a movie like The Matrix to even exist? Why encourage people to fight against paradise? Well, the text suggests a pretty mind-blowing idea. What if the movie wasn't some kind of revolutionary call to arms? What if its purpose was something else entirely, something built into the system itself? And there it is. This is the core of the theory. The film The Matrix, and others like it, aren't an accident. They are a feature, not a bug. They are a brilliant, subtle filter, designed to attract and identify people who are naturally rebellious, the kinds of people who, by their very nature, would disrupt paradise. The movie gets them to expose themselves and willingly reject the kingdom. I mean, think about it in practical terms.
Can you really build a perfect, harmonious world when you have people who are fundamentally wired to tear things down, to judge, to rebel? The heroes we root for in these stories, they often represent the very mindsets that make utopia impossible. The system, through these movies, lets them select themselves right out of it.
So this leads us to the final piece of this puzzle. If the system is a paradise, but it's not perfect yet, how does it get there? How does it finally achieve its utopian design? The way the source sees it, our world is like an incredible piece of software that's still in its beta phase. It's amazing, but it's got bugs, it's got glitches, and that corrupt code is what's holding it back from being the true paradise it was designed to be. And the text is very specific about what this corrupt code is. It lists these groups, the very people who tend to identify with the anti-system heroes, as the bugs in the program. They are, according to this text, the mindsets that are simply incompatible with a perfect, harmonious society. So, what's the endgame? How does the program finally get perfected? The text concludes that the system has to be debugged. It says a messianic figure, who it names as Lord Rael, will eventually come and purge these corrosive elements to remove the corrupt code so the system can finally run perfectly, as the paradise it was always meant to be. So, when you boil it all down, this whole interpretation is about one massive reversal. It challenges you to look at everything you believe about freedom and control and ask, what if the thing we think is a prison is actually a sanctuary, protecting us from a chaotic, brutal reality? And what if the freedom we think we're fighting for is really just the freedom to be miserable? It's a heck of a thing to think about.